Welcome back to Electrified Marina podcast. I'm your host and producer, Brooks Lawson.
And Erick Pinzon from Electrified Marina.
And today is July 20th, 2025. This show is brought to you by us at Electrified Marina. Please check out electrifiedmarina.com and call or email us if you decide you have any interest in buying a new electric boat or repowering your current boat with an electric powertrain. The best way to interact with the show is to post comments in the comment section on YouTube. Erick, do you want to kick us off with some announcements?
Yeah, man. Some exciting stuff going on. We've got a Zero Jet on the way from New Zealand. It's a super cool tender. It's carbon fiber, like half the weight of the average tender. It's a 48-volt system, but that's on the way. We've got people lined up to do sea trials on that thing. We've got a electric Chris Craft on the way. It's a 25 launch. It's going to be pretty cool. That's going to make it just in time for our event that we rescheduled. It's going to be Lake Anna, August 2nd. We've got about 40 people already signed up for it. It's going to be pretty big, but it's going to be a one-day event there, August 2nd. Reach out if you want to come out. We only have a few spots left. And we're going to start doing our podcast live, 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. But we're going to start doing these live, have some room for engagement, some questions. We've had a lot of inquiries about it, so we're going to see how it goes.
All right, excellent. Today's guest is Tom McCarthy. Tom, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here, guys. Good to see you.
Tom is one of the only, if not the only, X-Shore Eelex owners in Maryland and surrounding areas. We're excited to talk about his experience with his boat and dive into what it means to be an electric boat owner. So, Tom, tell us about the moments that led you to becoming an electric boat owner.
It goes kind of way back, and Eric and I know each other from a long time ago. I was one of the first Tesla owners in Maryland too, and that was in 2013. And so when I started thinking about getting a boat, I was looking around, and I never was really interested in being a boat owner. To be perfectly honest, I was kind of thinking about it, but not really serious about it. And I've always had an interest in electric vehicle technology. So when I started researching, I saw the X-Shore come out, and I just thought that looked pretty amazing. Read a lot about it, studied it, went and reached out to Eric and to Electrified, and was really impressed. And the thing that was really important to me when I met Eric and the team was not that I didn't know that new technology was cutting edge, and that we'd have to work through things together as we go forward with it, but it's that I could really team with you guys, and you'd work through it with me, and we had a lot of conversations about it. I studied a lot. I looked at all the X-Shore earnings statements or their projections. I'm a student of the industry, really, and I got really comfortable with Eric's vision and his plan and Electrified's plan to really support this really innovative vessel, and I was very, very psyched about it. But what really kind of flipped me, because my wife and kids were not that interested and weren't, they didn't think an electric. We've had electric cars, but the idea of an electric boat wasn't anything that they had really thought about. We came and we did a ride during a boat show. And the thing that made all the difference was, just like with the electric vehicle, it was silent, and it had no fumes and no smell. And so you could talk at 20 to 25 knots at a comfortable volume. And when we all did that together as a family, that just made it that's when it really clicked. At that moment, they were sold. They saw it, and they saw this is something we could do and really have a lot of fun doing. So that was it. It was that boat show. I think it was down at National Harbor.
Yeah, DC. It was a
Yeah,
wet one too.
it was a rainy day. It was a rainy day, and we were like, oh, I don't know. And then it was. But we also took a ride. I remember at the Annapolis Boat Show too, kind of earlier on, and that was the same vibe, same experience, and really just the boat just stands out. It's just uh, a different experience than other boats.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's the experience. We call it butts and boats, but I tell everyone, like, think about that first time you rode an electric car. Most of the time it was a Tesla, but it's like that first ride in the electric car. It's like instant torque, no noise, no shifting, and you're like your mind's blown because it's not something you've experienced before. And electric boats have that similar experience, and I love it because we'll be departing off the dock at a boat show, and everyone just does one of these. They're like, "Wait, it's on!" It's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're underway, guys."
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
you're just having a normal conversation at like this nice slow cruising speed, and it just hits them, and like all you could see all these I don't know, it's just surreal with all the experience of it because they're so used to a boat being noisy, and you're going to smell some exhaust, and hopefully there
Yeah.
isn't a tailwind because you're really going to smell it. But it's yeah, that we call it butts in boats, and
Yeah.
we learned very quickly not to go to boat shows without boats in the water because that experience is the difference. And I don't care if you're the biggest hater on electric boats. Like once you go out and experience it, it's like, okay, I get it. Like there's a reason people like these. And it might not be for them. It's not for everybody, but you can afterwards you can typically respect that it has its place.
Yeah. Yeah. And it didn't, I mean, it really, we talked a lot about the range and kind of thought about what we were going to do with it. But the initial experience was so positive, and it was so, both the acceleration, just like in a car. I mean, the shocking thing about it was the turning radius, the excuse me, the acceleration, and then the deceleration. I was in the Navy for 4 years, and I was on a 450-foot ship, and those things take forever to slow and stop. And this boat, it stops on a dime. It's wild. It's a very weird feeling when you first kind of try that. But it's a really interesting kind of technology when it's actually in the water. So that was that was what really, I think, like you were saying, like what clicked. It was that first experience. But then we had a lot of discussions, about like how we're going to use this, what's the range, and we can talk about all that. I mean, and how we kind of thought about and what we've been doing with it since we got it. But
Yeah, let's dive
yeah,
into that, man. How do you use the
yeah,
boat on the average day? There's so many people that, oh, only 30, 40 miles of range, where are you going to go with that? And like, I think a lot of people don't realize how many boaters really stay local, when they're
yeah.
using boats, whether it's, tubing nearby or dining docking at restaurants nearby. But I'm curious to hear how you use the boat up there. You're up in like New Kent or Kent Island area. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's a huge boating market.
Yeah, it's tons of boats, and we're in a little area called Y Island, the Y River, and it feeds into the Miles River, St. Michael's, Kent Island, the Eastern Bay. And so, we've got kids, families, and we're not a family, at least right now, that's going to go and do an overnight somewhere. And in fact, like doing something where you're going from like 8, 9 in the morning till 6, 7 at night, that's not going to be us, and we're more get out on the water, go to St. Michael's, which is, I don't know how far it is from where we are, but we can definitely go, and it's easy. You pull up, you just plug into shore power, you go eat lunch, you walk around the town, you hang out for 4 or 5 hours. You come back, the boat's gotten a little more charge. It's really kind of very simple. And then we're doing it cruising around the river like this weekend. I just got back, and we did really two things. We did like an adult cruise for about 2 hours, and we just were having fun, and people were just like interested in it. You're out, and people are taking turns driving, kind of letting it floor for a few minutes, and then pulling it back. And then we went back and we picked up the kids, and we pull a tube behind it, and you do tubing, and the wake is great. Like it's a great wake. The Elex kicks up a really nice wake for tubing, and I imagine for wakeboarding and other stuff. I don't know, but for the tubing for the kids, we've got kind of young to teenage kids, and you can do the S's and the circles and cut over the wake, and it's you get all the screams you want out of it. And so we did that for, you do that for like 3 hours. You're going 20 to 25 knots, and you're done. Like that's enough, like, of that sort of stuff. And then we come in, we have dinner, and so that's really a day on the water for us. It's either kind of a longer trip to one of the towns, or or like a local cruising or local kind of water sport thing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Like in terms of tubing, because I always hear people, "Oh, we tube all day." It's like, do you really though? Like you might be boating all day, but how
Yeah.
how many hours are you actively pulling somebody? Whether it's wakeboarding, skiing, or tubing, it's like to do that for like 6 or 8 hours is a ton. And it's one thing if you're at a lake house with 20 or 30 people and you're rotating through. Don't get me wrong, like I've seen that and I've been there for those. But if it's like your average family or two families, like a few hours of straight tubing of back to back people, like that is a ton of time pulling people on tubes. Like that wears you out. It's I don't know. It's always I find it laughable a lot of the times when I talk to someone. But then you find someone with like critical thinking skills, and you can have the conversation, and it's like, okay, you're probably only tubing a couple of hours out of that 6 8 hour day because there's going to be some cruising out there. You might spend some time anchored at a sandbar or a beach somewhere, unless you are that anomaly that is competitive skier or wakeboarder that might be
Yeah.
doing it for 8 hours a day. And in that case, like electric's not going to be there. And I say that, but we have a hybrid wakeboarding boat coming out next year, which is pretty exciting. But otherwise, like, I always relate it to electric cars. Like the average person that has off street parking or that just has charging at home, it's like can use an electric car. Most people are doing 40 to 50 mile days. And so it's like everyone thinks they're this, hardcore boater when a lot of people are in like lakes and bays and not going offshore every day. So I don't know. I feel like the right people that are buying our boats have the critical thinking skills to break down their day and realize how much they're actually using it.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. Like you said, like if you're a person who wants 10, 12 hours a day, or even 8 hours a day where you're going 25 knots the whole time. I mean, the boat's gonna, it won't give you 8 hours on that. I don't think. I haven't tried,
Yeah.
but I don't think it will. And uh, but like I mean, the thing I wanted to say, Eric, is like I've never owned a boat before either. And you know this. Like I
Yeah.
talked to you about this because I was really nervous about this because all you hear from people, and I was telling many people because I was testing the theory of should I get an electric boat, and there's a lot of brokers or people I know who are boat owners boat sellers who said that is crazy. You should not do that. Like, what's going to happen? When it breaks down, and they will break down because boats break down, and the services, how are you going to get help? And so I would say two things about that. The electric boat is much simpler than like an engine, a gas powered engine. It's much simpler. And so for dum dums like me who don't want a complicated machine, like you've got the screen, and you've got the charging set up. But in terms of the moving parts, it's just night and day. You just don't have all of that, and you don't have to do much to it. You don't have fluids checking, and it's very straightforward. And for a first time boat owner, that was really, I think, helpful. And when we've had issues, because we know we'll have issues, right? Like it is a new technology, and you have to be okay saying we might have something, and it's a boat anyhow. Everybody who owns a boat has something happen with their boat. It's like part of the, as I understand it, like this is a thing, right? Like so everybody everybody gets their boats kind of, they go down at times, right? And I'll just say this about Electrified, like Eric is on the job. You guys are like, you are so responsive, and you send people to the site. You're like, we will be there tonight or tomorrow morning, and we will fix it. And you're wherever you are in the country, and the service has been the whole difference for me. Like having a trusted partner like you guys, like that's what I want in when you're kind of taking a little bit of a leap into
Yeah.
something
Early
new.
adopter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
And
you
so
you hinted at it earlier, but you didn't dive in. So I know Tom from literally 12 years ago when he had a Tesla Model S, and back then they weren't as reliable as they are today. And so, I mean, I chatted with him between me and my counterpart Jonathan at the Rockville Service Center. We were chatting every other month, every few months. But that's how it was back then. And I always tell people, and I still to this day, in terms of selling electric boats, I'll tell them, hey, these boats aren't going to be perfect. but I promise you, we're going to move mountains and we'll fix it better than
Yeah.
anybody else can. And I think we've done that. I remember you had an issue a month or two ago. I was in San Diego when it happened, and my team handled most of it. But you had like a 12-volt connection issue, and like it
Yeah.
wasn't anything major, but it could cripple your weekend. But I think we had somebody there within 24 hours. You're 200 miles away, and we had someone there getting it taken care of, and it didn't ruin your weekend. It's like, show me a gas boat dealership that would do that. It's one
Yeah.
thing if you're pulling the boat out of the water and bringing it to them, they might help you, but I realize in this stage of the game, that's where we are. And everybody that buys a boat from us, they are so important because I need them to be advocates for us. We don't have thousands of customers out there to where I can be okay with a couple of upset clients. That's just not the way it is. Everybody that buys a boat needs to be an ambassador because that voice is huge right now. The last thing I need is someone on social media somewhere saying, don't buy an electric boat. They suck because, it ruined my 4th of July or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely move mountains. And it's cool though, because my team, they don't even question it. Like when they get hired on, we go through core values and everything. And it's like, there's going to be times we ask you to do things that no other job has ever asked you to do. And everybody on our team, like, represents that and has those core values. And it's funny, it's GSD, get shit done. And it's like you do whatever the hell it takes. And that, even if we're driving through the night or leaving at 4 a.m. to get something done, like, we're getting this resolved as quickly as possible so it doesn't impact your experience. And because we know these things are going to break, and whether it's a corroded, or I think it was a bad connection on the 12-volt battery.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We had a guy that had a seawater pump that was acting up a few months ago. And I mean, we overnighted a seawater pump and reached out to a local marine mechanic and got it fixed. And it's all about that damage control. And I don't know, I feel like Tesla prepped me for that because we had some pretty unreliable cars back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the boat is it. Look, it's like that. You're exactly right. It's like the Model S in 2013. It feels very much like that moment, and having that level of confidence that you're going to talk it through together and kind of work through whatever it is. And the boat has worked phenomenally since that she came up and kind of went through all that, and that was like, that was a big moment because it did. We had 10 people. I told you, 10 friends who were there watching and saying, is this going to work? And they came and they're like, this is amazing, and then we had this great a couple of days with it, and it worked beautifully. And so it's very funny, like you see people on the boat, like their reactions for the first time, who are not and haven't been on electric boats or even electric vehicles much, and they look and they're like looking at the battery, like, are we going to make it, are we going to, and they're asking, they're worried, and it doesn't smell, but at the end of it, I actually think this is the funny thing about it. You actually feel less drained on an electric boat after a day, because you don't have the engine sound going at you, and you don't have the fumes. And so, like, you're actually more refreshed, weirdly, after a day on the X-Shore, for example. Like, I like, no one feels kind of beaten down like you can after a day on a gas powered. So that's kind of, and it's surprising. You don't like realize that when you're having a great time, you're on a regular boat, you're like, it's great, it's fun, but then it's just it's a little noticeable thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah,
funny you mention that because I'll post on social media about the noise or the fumes, and these people come out of the woodworks to call me a liar that nobody notices that stuff. And it's like, that's because it's the norm, like everybody is used to it. But we have people that are buying these boats, and some of these people are sent, like, have get overstimulated from different noises and fumes. And I mean, I had a lady out 2 weeks ago on an X-Shore one, and she was out there looking at a decibel meter on her watch to see how loud it was. And she has a boat. It's a big, I don't even remember what it was. It had dual 250 outboards though. And she says it warns her all the time because of the noise levels.
yeah.
But she mentions at the end of the day, she's like overstimulated and exhausted from it. And we did like a 2-hour cruise in the X-Shore. And she's like, I don't know what boat we're buying, but it's going to be electric. And they're coming up August 2nd to look at that Chris Craft. So it'll be pretty exciting.
So, do you ever get any kind of reactions from other people on the water, Tom? Anybody comes up to you and wants to ask you questions about your boat?
Yeah, it's really funny. We get a lot of people looking. a lot of people staring. It's a very different looking boat, right? It's just with the bow, which is angled, with the coloring of it. It's obviously center console, so that's kind of standard, but the coloring, the cork, which is very distinctive. And then of course, ours says Electrified Marina on it. You're
Yeah.
welcome. You're welcome, guys. And so like people are like, oh, this must be electric, right? And so we get questions, people be like, hey, is that electric? Like, yeah. And you know what? Like everybody's just kind of curious, like kind of interested. They ask all the questions you'd expect, like, how's it going? What do you like? How's the charge last? Like, is it is it fun? Are you enjoying it? Like, it's just normal people questions. It's not, I'm sorry, Eric, for the online stuff, but it's like people are like actually really nice and they're just
Yeah.
curious and they want to know what it's like. Like we've passed some paddle boarders. Like I remember them kind of coming right up to us and looking at it. I had some people who were helping us in some of the dock actually at the Chesapeake Bay uh, museum, what Maritime Museum. Yeah, a guy in St. Michael's. There was a guy who sat and talked to me for about 15 minutes. He was one of the guys who's clearly been around boats a lot and was just really interested in the propulsion and kind of the handling of it. And so yeah, I've been, it's a little bit of a curiosity for a lot of people. But that's kind of, I think, kind of fun, part of the fun of it. And I don't mind that. I actually like, talking about it and telling people about our really good experience with it. Um, I don't, like you've said, I don't want to sell anybody on anything that they don't want, but and I don't make, like I don't make any money like from selling any any of this stuff. But I do want people to know like some of the things that I really like about it, and that the people that we take with us are like, oh wow, that was something that really was a little different and a little unexpected,
Yeah.
so
And that's what we get a lot, it's a lot of haters on social media, I think, because it's easy to hate, but in person, and you could tell this person has never had any interest in electric, but they walk up with that curiosity on their face, and they're like, "Hey, what's this like?" And they just ask those good organic questions. I love that it's like a show and tell educational piece to it, but it's always pretty neat because not in person, most people can respect it on why you bought it or why it exists, even if it doesn't fit for them. But I feel like everybody online just can't wrap their head around that. Not everyone has their use case and is going offshore for hundreds of miles.
We have our first live audience question. And the question is, do you notice a difference in the Swedish style design of the hull on the water?
Yeah, I think you just touched on that, man. It is like such a unique boat,
yeah,
whether it's the bow or the cork. And it's funny, like the cork is, I think, one of the biggest conversation starters. Funny enough.
yeah, yeah. The cork's awesome. I think the style is very it stands out on the bay for sure. It looks different. Like everybody has it just has a very different style to it. The handling of it, um, the handling's really great. Like it's a really tight turning boat for the stuff that I want to do. It's kind of perfect in that way. It all the other thing I love about it is the bow thruster. So docking again for those who are you don't do this every day all day long. Like in tough winds, sometimes you get like 15 knots or whatever on the bay some days, and the bow thrusters like you're just always looking like what you're doing. The bow thruster just allows you to slide right in, and like in those hard wind days or those tough current days, it makes all the difference. So I think both at low speeds really good for docking, really easy for docking, incredibly easy to handle on the pier, and then and then really fun and kind of tight at higher speeds.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that bow thruster. I remember when we got our first X-Shore demo. This was 3 years ago. I'd had my boating license for all of like 3 months. And I'm pulling up to a restaurant here in Virginia Beach on the bay. And I pull up and I looked so good out there. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I pulled right in. The guy's like, man, like you must have been on the water your whole life. I was like, dude, like
Yeah.
3 months and counting. Like the boat makes me look good.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, and I mean, it's almost necessary too with it being rudder over prop in the back. Like low speed maneuvering isn't easy, and then you throw the bow thruster in, and like it makes you look great.
Yeah. Yeah, we were doing so my wife is starting to learn to dock the boat, and we were doing some like trial runs into the lift, and she nailed it the first time. Like it was
Nice.
just like, and she's not like a boater. She doesn't really, she does it when we're out some, but she's not a person who's docked a lot of boats, and she just pulled in, and I was there and helping a little bit, but she just went. It was really, really smooth, and that was all, um, a little bit reading the wave and wind, and the current, but mostly bow thruster, bow
Yeah,
thruster guidance.
yeah, and especially with the gunnels on that boat. I mean, the walls are
Yeah,
like super high, so it's like a sail out there in the wind. It, it's
yeah,
it's funny you bring up your wife. I was teaching one of our salesmen, Katie. She'd gotten one training session from us in terms of docking. She was out on a scout, a month or so prior. And then we go to the San Diego Boat Show and we're surrounded. I mean, there's like a 57-footer next to us, some wake boats, but like yachts lined up everywhere. And we only have one slip with an X-Shore one and an X-Shore Eelex, like the nose bow to stern in there. And so if somebody was interested in a different boat, we had to move them out. And I mean, we were switching them out 5 times a day. And so I spent, I don't know, an hour with her prior to the show, practicing docking. But then throughout the entire show, she was doing it the whole time and she was crushing it every single time. And like, I mean, we had some windy days there too, but she looked like an absolute pro. And the whole time there's 20, 30 people staring, a couple cameras out. Like, this is someone this is her second time on the water ever. And she absolutely crushed it. Like you said, man, it makes you look pretty dang good. And it's funny. I didn't realize that I took someone out last week, and they talked about how precise it is to control the boat. And like I wasn't a boater prior to this company either, so I didn't have zero exposure to gas boats. And he talked about how easy it was to control at low speeds because on gas boats you're like you're idling or you're in neutral.
yeah.
And with these, it's like you could give it the tiniest amount of power and you could move it at a couple hundred RPM. And so it's still assisting you with docking versus with a gas boat, you don't have that precision at low speeds. And that's kind of something I've always taken for granted because I never knew what it was like docking a gas boat.
Yeah, it's really easy to nail like on the lift, you've got we have a spot where we've got to pull the gunwale up to this spot. It's kind of like the front of the console needs to be even with the front of the two poles that are at
Hmm.
the front of the lift. And to nail that, it seems like, oh, that's really hard. That would be really hard. It's
Right.
really easy between working the wheel, because the wheel is so responsive because of the electric boat. It's really easy to give it just a hair forward or a hair back,
Right.
and then move the bow, just like really slightly to line it up in the lift. It's just it's you get it. It's nice to get a round of applause from your passengers sometimes, and like that's good. Like they're happy, they think it's impressive, and then they get off and have a good time. So yeah, it's great.
I like it, man. I want to talk about charging. You had the house out there. Did you already have electricity running to the dock? I mean, you were planning to put in a boat lift, and then you mentioned going into St. Michael's. You just pull into a regular slip there. They've got Marina Shore Power there already. There's no like special. There's no DC fast chargers up there. So, like, I'm curious if you could talk about like your charging experience so far.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was redoing the pier, at the same time, actually a little before we were going to get the boat. I was already thinking about, I thought about the boat about a year in advance of the purchase. I started really thinking about it. And then we redid the pier in the winter. And I think I probably had conversations with you about what the appropriate shore power would be. and we decided to go with 50 amps of shore power on the pier. And so that was a little bit of a difference from most, I think, home piers, right? So so we had 50 amps put in, and that has been really easy, in terms of the charging situation. And from, like I think last night was a good example. We started charging in the evening. It was down to like about 8 or 9% by the time we pulled it in after what we have been doing all day. And it was charged by the morning, by like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. If like fully back up to 99%. Um, when when we go to St. Michael's, yeah, there's nothing special. I wish there was infrastructure. I can't wait for the fast charging. By the way, I do want to talk about that DC charger that I've been noticing
Yeah,
on
yeah.
your social media, and like how to install that, because one of the things you have to do is like we've talked about, at least with the X-Shore, it has to be in the water
Mhm.
so that it's not on the lift, right? It has to be in the water so that the seawater cooling pump is going and cooling the battery and the charger while while it's charging. And so that's something that, you think about a little bit. Like last night, there were thunderstorms like on the bay. And so
Mhm.
I was thinking, should I pull it in? But they were sort of farther south, so I wasn't worried about it. So I just left it out. But it's out there charging, and it's on. So the seawater is going through it. So that's something like, hopefully we can get to a point where you can charge it on the lift, and that'd be like a kind of next generation idea, I guess. Um, at St. Michael's, just pull right up, plug it in, easy. It starts charging. There's no thought. They know exactly what to do. It takes literally less than a minute. As soon as they tie up, you plug, you plug it into the 50 amp shore power, then you plug it in, boom, it starts charging. You don't even have to do anything. You just then you get off the boat and you go have lunch, and you walk around and you come back, and it's added whatever it's added during the time you're gone. So it's very straightforward. When I do hope, and I'd love for St. Michael's or some other place on the bay to experiment with a supercharger. I mean, that would be incredible. There's probably not the volume there yet to justify it, but man, that would be phenomenal, because it would be great to have the the beginnings of the infrastructure to allow fast charging in different spots around the bay. That'd be very
Yeah.
cool.
And it's interesting too. It's kind of this cart before the horse scenario, when we're looking at putting in a fast charger somewhere. And I say I'm not footing the bill for that. Like Aqua Superpower covers that. But like the make ready costs, hopefully the utility company works with us on it. But they could very quickly spend $100,000 putting in that charging station. And they're not making a ton of money per charge. So it's not a huge quick ROI. They get, at least to the area they're putting the charger in, typically 20 years. But what it is that foot traffic. And you think of like the early electric car chargers. If there is no other chargers around, people are going to seek you out. That is a destination, and people are incentivized to spend a longer time there. So like the charger is one thing, but the added foot traffic is the added value there. Whether they're buying food, drinks, playing tourists, but it's attracting more transients to your marina, and so that it's going to be this ripple effect of revenue and foot traffic. So it's, there's been times when we've approached a marina or a restaurant on the water, and you can't even get them to grasp the idea. Those are the people that think electric cars are a fad. They don't even believe in electric boats, and it's like, I'm just trying to give you this for free. Like, we will pay to put this in, like, and they still won't do it. And it's always, I don't know, it's a interesting challenge. And it's funny because I dealt with it 10 years ago when I was trying to give Tesla charging stations away.
Yeah.
And the best part was when they came back to us years later and they're like, "Hey, can we get some of those charging stations?" We're like, "Oh, they're not free anymore. Like, here's an
Yeah.
estimate for it." But the early adopters get rewarded in that sense. But no, we definitely want to make some headway there. And like the other side of it is, once that charging station gets put in, it's like, now how many other people are going to buy electric boats because of it? So We're getting enough of them down here in our bay in Virginia Beach between electric jet skis and boats that we're going to be starting the conversation with some of these marinas and really pushing it. And it's funny because they often won't entertain the conversation, and we're gonna go pull up with a boat and be like, "Hey, let's go for a boat ride. Like, you guys have to experience this. This is." I'm not saying every boat's gonna go this way, but there's gonna be a good chunk of pleasure boaters that are tired of dealing with gas headaches that are gonna make this transition. And there's only gonna be one free fast charger per waterway, for the foreseeable future, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for that day.
Yeah,
I can't wait. But it's fun. It's like that'll just extend the days and increase the options. Um, so that'll be fun. Like when that happens, that'll be a lot of fun. I mean, I think, having days where we could think about, oh, maybe we'll cruise out into the actual bay and cut across the bay and things like we really don't think about yet. Which is okay. Like I said, what we're using it for, that's not the main thing, but it's fun to grow your sort of menu of things you can do. And that's the way to do it, is to get those fast chargers going.
So, Tom, do you have any kind of favorite memory or experiences on the boat? I know you talked about like docking with your wife and people clapping for you at the dock. Is there anything else really cool experiences like that you've had on the boat?
Yeah, I mean, I do think like my wife and I last fall, we circumnavigated Y Island, just the two of us with the dog. And it was like a fall day, it wasn't like a summer thing. I've got a lot of great memories of the boat full of people, cruising down the Miles River or in the Y River, jumping in the river off the boat, sort of stopping it and jumping in and trying to avoid the nettles, but successfully. This is the other thing, like that we talked about. I'm on a tangent here, but like it being I know this is a good lake boat, but it being a boat for this brackish water, right? And thinking, does this work? And it absolutely does. And it's fun. It's a fun swim call boat too. We've got, you know, as you've told me, Eric, like the center console roof can support two people at once jumping off of it. So we've got great, not me, because I can't flip off of a center console that high, but like some friends or my nephews like flipping off into the water. Super cool. But yeah, my wife and I did this fall trip. Like it was great. It was just me, her and the dog. Just like a slow cruise around the island, checking it out. It was like a really nice memory. Yeah. So
I love
that's
it.
that's that's definitely one.
Yeah, the style of the boat, it's like everyone asks, like, what do you use it for? It's like, well, it's kind of a Swiss Army knife, like whether you're tubing with it, wakeboarding. But like there's times where we just go for a sunset cruise, and like that kind of picnic table set up on the back is perfect for it. And like a lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of boats aren't set up that well for that layout, that's that social aspect of it. Because it's not usually the focal point of it. And sometimes you are with like bigger yachts and stuff where you've got a full table set up. But I think it's a very European thing to cruise. We've got like the Rand boats that we're starting to sell more of. They're set up for socializing, which is pretty cool because you don't see that too common over here. But we had some people out the other day, and when you've got a table of six people facing each other, it's a pretty cool environment when you're even if you are just slow cruising and there's food and drinks out, so you don't really want to go fast. But I think that's part of the boat, and in terms of enjoying it, that a lot of people don't really consider when they get it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's got a great stereo system. It's got great wake capability. So you can make it loud and fun and make it that kind of thing. Absolutely. But because the engine's quiet, and we've got tons of like wildlife around Y Island because Y Island's a conservation area.
Yeah,
And so like having a quiet boat, it's sort of like it's not a kayak or a paddleboard, right? But it's quiet enough where you feel like, yeah, you're not disturbing things, right? Like, and you can sort of get closer to things, and you can, and that's fun. And that was that's what made that, I think, that circumnavigation really cool, is because we were going, 5 to 8 knots most of the time, and and it was really quiet. It was a fall day. You just hear everything really clearly, you could see everything, and you weren't like announcing your presence with authority as some boats do. Like you were kind of going, you were part of the scene,
Yeah.
really. So
There was somebody that just made a comment on social media and they said, I can't imagine a lake without all the lake mosquitoes on it in terms of like the electric boat or the gas jet skis. It's like, imagine if they were electric and then like the loud boats, what if they weren't there? Like you could just enjoy the lake. It's this
yeah,
crazy concept.
exactly. Yeah. So that's a really nice part of this.
You talked a lot about the different features of the ELX. Is there any kind of specific deciding factor that you made you decide on the ELX specifically?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I definitely wanted a boat that, the Elex can hold, I think it's up to 11 people, um, uh, roughly. And I wanted, the center console actually was great for shade, on the bay because the bay is hot and like open, in the summer. So having a little bit of that shade was important. That's why I was, like the X-Shore One came out and it's a super cool looking boat, but for what we were doing, I was like, I need I need cover. I need something a little bigger. And to have more people really on it. We were like in terms of when we were buying, like I think Eric, we might have talked about the is it Candela? Is
Hmm.
that the
The
other
foiling
brand?
boat.
The foiling boat. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. And that just I don't think was right for what I was trying to do. And it wasn't quite nothing against them, but I'm not sure it was quite in the right spot yet, like where the X-Shore was. Like so the X-Shore just was it had the optionality, like I said, of like the tubing for and the kids and the fun of the towing stuff, plus the kind of swim call stuff, and then the cruising factor. Like, so all of those are the drivers for me.
Yeah, that open transom on the back, I didn't think it would be a huge benefit, but like I love it. And it's funny, we just had a boat out, an Elex out this past weekend. And when we were anchored at the beach, I mean, there was always 1 to 3 people sitting on the transom, people swimming around, like hanging out. Like that's where the hangout spot was on the boat, and you never
Yeah,
really anticipate an open transom being like an amenity. It's weird.
I love it. I think it's great. We have had a hat fly off though. Like there's nothing blocking it, and when you take off,
Yeah.
people are shocked,
Yep.
like they're like, oh, it's so especially when you let somebody who's never driven the boat before sort of take it for the first time. They don't really, and even you can warn them, but they don't really realize how sensitive the wheel is to
Yeah.
acceleration. Like in an electric car, it's sort of like a gas boat just takes a little more time to kind of speed up, and the Elex can just jump. I mean, immediately, and it really can throw people like
Everything.
it can be very surprising. Yeah. So the open transom is cool, except when like you're going real fast and it's a surprise.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, you can warn people and it doesn't help. I was at the
Yeah.
Annapolis Boat Show giving rides, and this guy was like an editor for the Chesapeake Bay magazine, and I won't mention his name, but he was up there and like right in front of the helm, kind of leaning off to the side. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna launch this. You might want to brace yourself." He's like, "Yeah, I'm good." I'm like, "No, really? Like, you should hold on to something." And he's like, I've been on boats my whole, and I just snapped the throttle. I'm like, whatever, dude, here we go. And he almost fell over. He grabbed onto
Yeah.
the helm, but it was just like, and that guy like grew up on boats. He's literally an editor for one of the biggest boating magazines. But like, you can't prepare people for that. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was just out training some of my staff this past week on one of the boats. And it's like, hey, before you hit the throttle, like warn everybody. You don't want anyone getting hurt, like losing stuff. But like, if things aren't secured, like when you launch that, it's instant torque. So stuff's going
Yeah.
flying. And now it's like a mental, I don't know, mental schedule of mine. Like before I hit it, I warn everyone. I look around like, hey, hold on to your hats. I literally say it. And if not, and like it never fails, like someone's still losing a hat. It's gonna happen.
My wife lost her hat. We almost lost a towel. I mean, it's sort of like I do. If you're exactly right, if you're not paying attention and people have towels or something scattered, they're gonna fly. The boat is really safe though. Like there's a lot to hold on to. So we've never had anybody like actually sort of fall over or anything because there's just so many places to grab that are very solid, or people are sitting at that table or up front. And so they're kind of locked in usually most of the time when you're on the boat. It's just you know, the loose gear
Yeah,
on the deck.
all of my regulars know now. They're all very aware. And someone's, it'll be a backpack cooler sitting off to the side
Yeah.
on like the side of the gunnel. And they're like, "Oh, it'll be fine there." And then everyone else that's been on the boat, they're like, "No, it won't. Like we got
Yeah.
to put this somewhere else."
Right. Those little alleys right next to the gunnels. Like if
Yeah.
you put something down there, it's like
Yep.
that's perfect for it to slide off right off the transom.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, kind of same question, but as far as where you got your boat from, right? Were you looking at anybody else to provide your boat? And if so, what made you confident in your purchase with Electrified Marina, other than your relationship with Eric?
Yeah. So I was just researching X-Shore overall and kind of looking. It was because I was pretty focused on X-Shore. So that sort of drove me to Electrified as a regional, distributor or sales representative. And so that's I think I looked in some of the other locations, like there might be others in the Midwest or in New England or Florida or whatever. But those are all too far away. And so regionally it just made the most sense for the boat that I was looking to get.
And I don't think we realized that we had met each other previously when you initially reached out.
No,
You had said your name like, "Man, that sounds familiar." And then I said my name. You're like, "Wait, Erick Pinzon?" I was like, "Dude, I helped you 10 years ago." It's awesome how it comes full circle.
I looked up emails that we had. I was like, I searched on your name in my emails. It's like, I have emails with Eric from 2013 and 2014. Yeah. So that was very cool.
Love it. And it's interesting too because like some of that same demographic are the people that are buying our boats and most of them have never owned a boat. And it's, I was just chatting industry with somebody recently and they're talking about inventory and this correction from COVID and they've got a huge inventory of boats sitting around and it's like imagine how much a difference it could make if electric boats just expanded the boating market just a couple of percent. I'm not talking, 10, 20, 30%, but like, what if we attracted a couple percent of new boat owners that never would have entertained power boats otherwise? And it's like, I'm not going to say it's like the saving grace because the volume's so low right now, but it could be what the boating industry needs after this huge correction from COVID. And not that it's going to help with gas boat inventory, but in terms of boaters, it's going to be interesting because a lot of boaters are older demographic. They're aging out of boating now, and a lot of the younger generation doesn't want to deal with the headaches of a gas boat. A lot of these younger generations don't want to own hardly anything, let alone a boat that's going to strap them down with the responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, my interest was, definitely, I mean, generated because of the electric nature of the boat. I mean, that was a huge part of what I was thinking about it. And it kind of introduced me into power boats. And I'm not sure I'd be a power boat owner right now. Pretty sure I don't know. I might be, but definitely I don't have to think about that because I am one with an electric boat and it was the right call for me. I mean, I think the the thing, Brooks, to your question, like too, like I said at the beginning, I think Eric is an incredibly patient, like person to work with, actually, and I give him a lot of credit, and I think that's the right approach right now, like in this industry, and I really needed that. I needed to talk through a lot of things about the boat as a first time boat owner, an electric boat owner, a person who, you guys had to talk to and both X-Shore, but also the people who are putting in the lift, and then the shore power, like making sure the electrical system was set up correctly, just thinking through what does all this mean. And you guys were terrific leaders and partners through that whole piece of it, and it just gave me a lot of comfort in going forward with pretty big investment in something new.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, man. I'm training somebody right now, and it's, this isn't typical sales. Like, this is education. The last thing we want is to strong arm a buyer or speed up a timeline too quickly. And we don't want someone buying our boat unless they're a good fit, because they're going to be my headache afterwards. I don't have time to deal with pissed off people.
Yeah.
So it's like we very much share as much information as we can, answer all the questions, but the last thing we're doing is forcing it on anybody. So it's much more education than it is sales, and I like that, because I'm not that greasy salesman that's, saying all the right things and, manipulating the conversations to force a boat down your throat, because like it'll be a absolute pain if we haven't had the conversations about range and charging and all of that. And it's funny because I've talked to some other salesmen before, and they told them that I was a sale was getting held up because I was dealing with a dry storage location to assist them with the charging conversation. And he's like, "Man, that's not your problem." I'm like, "No, no, but it is. Because if this person buys the boat and this isn't solved yet, it is a very big problem for me, and they're going to be a pain." And so we have a very extensive discovery process, if you will, and that slows sales down and makes it this longer sales cycle. But I'd rather that than someone pulling the trigger too quickly. It's like the electric car owner that buys a car that planned on using public charging and did zero homework, and there's no fast charger nearby or something. But I tell people I would rather not sell you a boat than wait a couple years before it's the right time for you to buy one, whether it's sourcing a slip or getting a dock done right, or what have you. But it's not like a quick and easy impulse buy. It's like there's a lot of things to consider through this. And if you don't end up buying the boat because the range isn't enough or charging isn't right or what have you, like, I'm okay with that. You weren't a good buy, you weren't a good customer or a good fit anyway. But the
Yeah.
last thing I want to do is create a detractor to the brand or the mission out there because we wanted to make a quick buck on somebody, and that's just we can't afford that right now.
I think like um, you kind of got to be in it. You really love it and you're passionate about it. It's very obvious, and you kind of got to be in this right now and be like curious about the boat. You can't just and you're like that, and I think I'm kind of like that. I'm really interested in understanding it. Like you said, it's an education process. Like, how does this thing work? And you've got to be in it for that. And if you're not, if that's not what you want out of it, it's going to be it's not going to be as fun, I think. And but if you really want to understand it a little bit more and think, oh, this is a really kind of a new technology. How does it work, and what can I learn about it, and who can teach me like you guys? It's really good. I think that's a good approach. That's at least the way I think about it.
Well, Eric definitely is very patient, but more than that, he also just loves to talk about EVs. And
Yeah.
I've talked about this before on the show, but Eric and I met back in like 2009, and we were like both literally teenagers, right? And even back then, he would just talk my ear off about all these electric cars. And this was like before Tesla was around, but they weren't really that big of a thing. They were kind of like the new startup, right? And he's always not just it's not just a business to him. Like he's an advocate of electric vehicles and always has been.
It's also the dangerous part though, because like I'm kind of maniacally crazy about this, but like one could argue that I wouldn't have done this if I wasn't. Like everybody else would have seen this and like, that's nuts. There's a very high chance of failure. Like that is not a good idea. And I wiped out my life savings and jumped into this head first. And I'm not even a boater. So it's like if I wasn't that crazy about it, I mean, I could have bought a storage unit or something boring that made a lot more safe, good like return on my investment than throwing all of it at a startup, one of the riskiest things we could do. But me and my business partner, Aaron, we thought about it in the beginning. Like when we had that aha moment, it's like, if we don't do this, who's going to? And to this day, I mean, 3 years later, 3.5 years later, there isn't really anybody that's going all in like we are. There's manufacturers, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
there isn't dealerships doing this. And you could almost argue that they're not financially incentivized to. If they're making all their money off service and repairs, like electric boats is kind of their kryptonite. It could be death by a thousand cuts. Over time, if half of their customer base switches to electric and it cuts their service interval and service revenue that covers a ton of their overhead, what if that gets cut in half? Are they still keeping the lights on? So we came to this moment of like, hey, if there's going to be a big shift in this industry, like it kind of has to be someone as crazy as us to do it. And I think a lot of that was because of our background. I mean, she was at SpaceX, I was at Tesla, and it takes that kind of maniacal motive to do something that crazy. And I was chatting with somebody a couple hours ago who's been following us on social media, and he's like, dude, like you guys are one of the biggest players in the electric boat space right now. And like, don't get me wrong, there's not a lot of people doing this. But even if we only deliver 50 watercraft this year, that's 50 more than, or it'll probably be 45 more than any other dealership out there. We're doing more than everybody else combined. But we're learning a lot of what not to do. There isn't like a blueprint for this. Here's how you start an electric boat dealership. And oh, by the way, most of your customers aren't prior powerboat owners that aren't going to boat shows. So like, good luck. So we've blown through a few $100,000 of marketing and a lot of lessons. So I don't know, it's getting to the point though, in terms of web traffic, in terms of website traffic, in terms of searches, in terms of our social media, this is the highest it's ever been since we've been tracking this stuff. Our sales funnel, like our pipeline of leads, is the highest it's ever been. And these people that are getting to us, they've been following us for a bit. So like things are finally working in the right direction. And it's starting to get pretty exciting. And like the other side of that is people reaching out wanting to open their own electrified marina. They don't have much
Mm.
desire to do it on their own. They're like, hey, what can I do to open one of these locations? And it's like, whoa, hold on. Like, we got to get all of our documentation and processes and systems in place, and getting that documented so that it's easier to copy and paste it. But I've got 4 or 5 people out there that have the capital that are ready to do this. And it's I don't know, I think if not by the end of this year, next year before boating season is going to be pretty huge. And hopefully we've got another 3 to 5 locations out there.
You can open one up in Kent Island, my friend.
Dude,
You
we
guys
that
are
that
Sir
area
St.
is
Michael's. Come
perfect.
on up.
The area is perfect for it, man. And like a lot of those boaters stay local, there's not many of them that are, going up and down the Chesapeake Bay. It's a lot of
Yeah.
local boating there. We learned that at the Bay Island boat show and the last Annapolis boat show. And, we pull out a map and it's like, hey, where are you going on this thing? They're like, oh no, I go here, here, and here. And it's like, that's a 15-mile day. Like, this is very
Yeah.
easy to do with electric. You throw in a couple of fast chargers in there and like, now it's idiot proof. So it's I don't know. The near future is going to be pretty exciting, man.
Great. That's great. Well,
Awesome. Well, we're coming up on our time here, Tom. I want to thank you again for being with us and give you some time. If you have any kind of parting thoughts or any sites or any social accounts you want to share.
no social accounts, but except for your guys. But I think, look, I'm really grateful to you all. I'm really thankful that we've connected again, Eric, for a second round of EV, work together, and it's going great. And I'm really enjoying the boat, and so I'm thankful, and looking forward to a lot more time with this boat, and at some point looking at other electric boats as well. I would definitely do it again. I would definitely look at other vehicles like this in the future. And I know they're only going to get better, so it's going to be fun to see where they go. Like you said, electric jet skis, electric, other sort of electric watercraft. So I'm very psyched and grateful to you all.
Awesome, man.
All right. Well, you've been listening to Electrified Marina podcast brought to you by Electrified Marina and electrifiedmarina.com. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please share with your friends and family. Please leave comments, questions, feedback, or potential guests in the comment section on YouTube, and that will help us to reach more people and spread our message. Thank you for watching and listening.